Just 1 second. Let's do this. Yeah. So I'm going to dig into inflection in a deeper way. We talked about last week just getting the groups of 4, but now what I'm going to do is create some lines in here, and I'll send you this copy back when we're done. And the lines are the stopping points, or in other words, where you're going to hear the inflections. It's not as simple as just making it every 4. Now, again, I gave that to you last week to get started with the idea, but in real music, we change things for several reasons. So this video is going to be very important to just review several times and really understand why I'm putting the inflection markings here. I'll explain it each time, probably for the first 3 lines or so, and then I'm going to just start firing it off. So in this case, it is 4. It's not that you'll never do 4. In fact, 4 is the most common inflection marking. But there are times where you would shorten it to 2, or times where you would lengthen it to 8, 12, sometimes 6, something like that. So there's kind of 2 rules. The golden rule is end on beat. Every group, every inflection ends on the beat. And to go with that, start on off beat. Okay, so if you have a group of 4, you're going to be starting on 2 or 4, like 4/16 notes, right? And look at that. Bach does it for you by not giving you the first 16th note. He's starting the group, mentally speaking, on the second of the 4. So Bach is like one of the composers that almost always does this anyway, but even when the composers don't write it like that, you still have to hear it that way, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But you end every group on the beat. So notice that this last note of the group is beat 2, and it ends there. And this is because harmony changes on the beat. So here's an example. We have A major, right? And that changes to D minor on the beat. So if your group ends here, your ear is not fulfilled because it doesn't actually hear the change until the next beat. So that's why grouping always has to start on the off beat and go to the beat so that you get a strong sense of the function of each shape, that it's leading you somewhere. It's not just a group in the abstract for no reason. It actually has a musical effect going from A major to D minor. So that right there is the number one reason for all of this. In any case, here we go. 4 notes, definitely 4 again. Here, the left hand reflects it, so still the 4. D, 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 D. Okay. Now, here's a few options. You could do this in 8, but it does definitely look like 4 because we have the 4 notes going down, and then we have the higher jump. It's kind of weird to combine that into 1. So again, kind of the offbeat to the beat there. Those 2, though, do work as a unit of 8, and the reason is because they're repeated from C. It just moves down to D. So while they are individual units of 4, notice I'm writing the line divisions after all 8. Okay, then this is the exact same but reverse. Instead of 4 down and a little thing, we have 4 up and a little thing. And then 4 up and a little tie off there. So exactly the same, but now he does it a third time. 4 up and a response. So really we get these 8, these 8, and these 8. So in this case, that's why this worked so well on a first try, is like most of this piece actually is in groups of 4. But let me just play it again for you up to that point so far so you can really hear it. It's recording right into the computer, so it's not going to be the most ideal sound, but here we go. So a couple things I want to break down. Just because there are individual units of 4 doesn't mean you won't shape it closer to a unit of 8. And what I mean by that is if you crescendo and decrescendo within just 4 notes too much, like this, then you do create a little bit of a seasick feel. Like that's beautiful on one hand, but it's distracting when that's all you hear left and right. See, it gets a little bit old after a while. So one way you can make that less predictable is simply by taking a whole group now, coming up one, coming down on the other one. So now we perceive it actually as an 8-measure phrase, even though you're still also hearing the units of 4. So the way I would do that is I would still inflect it. It's not like it's just 4 notes getting louder. That would be this. And then 4 getting quieter. You could do that, but that's a little mechanical. So I still inflect it in 4s, but then I just stay loud like this. And then this one, see, I interrupt, I stay full, and I really exaggerate the quiet one, so this quiet is less than that quiet. So it's not just a flat line, but there's sort of, if I diagrammed it, it would look something like this. There's a little dip. Like that. And that is playing in curves all the time. So much more beautiful than just down and up. Like that. So here you go. And then reflecting that in the left hand. See? Now our ear perceives that as an 8-measure phrase, especially as we go faster. So like here, you could crescendo as you go down, and then maybe just lighten up the response. Instead of decrescendo, just play lighter, because it's an octave higher. You know, and then maybe here it's the opposite, because he reflects it. This one goes down, so you crescendo. But this one goes up, so maybe you decrescendo. Like, instead of charging to it, you can pull away. Ooh, I like that. I almost like hearing it this way. Let me regroup that for you. 1, and then this is not the response. This is the start to the next one. So we're just going to move that. I think that actually works better musically. Lightening up. Moving to here, lightening up. Now here's why that works. We're getting quieter to where the texture gets quieter because the rest is under it, right? And then here, we're getting louder to where the chord is changing. And then we're releasing that tension again in the rest, and so on and so forth. So the dynamics are actually showing the rhythmic structure is like less and more, less and more. Now within that, there's 3 groups, so you could still be doing other expressive things like getting louder with each one that you build into. Like this chord is louder than that, and this chord is louder than that. But you have to also understand, before you can play the long line, you have to know the little short line things. And that's what inflection is all about. So, and more, and more, and coming down. And there's the end of your phrase. And now you restart. It goes on and on. So this has already been several minutes, probably 10 minutes already. Watch it a lot. keep listening to the examples, but keep really understanding my concepts and my diagrams. And what I'm going to do now, I'll do it in front of you, but I'm not going to explain it as much. I will just now notate the entire grouping. Here's the rule. When you see a line, stop. Do not play past it. The last note of every group is generally the quietest note. So again, this is getting louder overall, and this starts loud, but this particular note right here, right there, is going to be quieter. So it's like getting louder, a little drop off, and then starting loud. So it's not only getting quieter, but you also want to stop and pause in your practice so you get used to hearing that. Every time you see a line, I want you to actually pause. That's going to really help you to internalize this stuff and feel like you're rolling the rhythm forward constantly. So here we go. Boom, boom, bee, dee. Boom, 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 bee. Boom, boom, bee. See, here's an example. I'll explain this one because I didn't run into it yet. This isn't just 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. It actually is now a group of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 6, right? So that's where we would lengthen a group. We still started on the offbeat and ended on the beat, but it just doesn't make sense to do 4 and then leave 2 notes hanging because that's the cadence. So it's just a longer group, and it starts on the 4th 16th instead of the 2nd 16th in this case. Okay, let's keep going. Do do dee do. Do dee do dee with a little break. And same thing. Do dee 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 do dee do dee do dee dee do. And by the way, once you figure this out, everything gets easier. Like, I'm serious. Your technique, your dynamics, your expressive control, even your pedaling, it all gets easier because this teaches your ear how to listen to the forward momentum of the piece and not just brace for impact. I gotta redo that one. Okay, these are pretty much, it's either all 4s or all 8s. And then, like I said, it's 4s with, 4s within the 8s. Do do dee dee. Do dee dee. Let me play this real quick to make sure I did that right. Yeah, that's the right grouping. Those are 8s just because harmonically they're taking you to the new chord here. Do do dee do dee 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 do new chord do do dee do dee 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 do new chord do do dee do dee 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 do new chord and a rest in the left hand, if that weren't enough. Okay, so we have that. Now I'll take this arrow out because you saw it earlier. We have this. We have that. Do 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 dee do dee do dee do dee 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 dee. Okay, here's where I would do 4 and then start going to 8. We release to the top again because there's a left hand. Do dee 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 do dee dee dee, and then you play all the way to the next 8 because this is the top, this is the top, this is the top, this is the top. So you want to get used to the top as your changes. So let me just play that part for you. And then it caps off with a 4. So in other words, the softest note should be the top because otherwise it beats it out. See how annoying that becomes? So if you teach yourself to hear it the other way, where you inflect away from the top, then the whole thing sounds round. And this is how people like Richter and Gilels play these super long Bach pieces and don't sound boring is they know how to uninflect something so that it doesn't beat out and it doesn't sound stiff, and that way it sounds like you can just, it's flowing for 5 minutes straight. The trick is where to unaccent something, not where to accent it. Less. See how continuous that is? It's endless. It feels like your line is 2 years long, you know? So anyway, same thing. I mean, I feel like you probably understand it by now. I probably don't need to go this far anymore, but just to be clear. Those are all fours. I'm not going to bother to do a lot. Oh, actually, I think I can just copy paste. Why haven't I been doing that? That's so much faster. Cool. Okay. That was my phone rumbling. This one would be an 8 because we have one that goes up and one that goes down. So they kind of work as a unit, and that's where, let me save this, page 2 comes in. Gotta turn on the pen again, turn it back to red, and then and see how this works, because not only are they different directions, but look at the bottom note resolving up to the top note. There's that ba, ba, sort of a strong, weak feel with each group. So if you do it in 4s, it just feels too broken up, whereas the 8, that's a nice group. And then we have the same predicament here with the top note. Wait. Oh, no, just 4. And then 8. And then the top. Ah, man, that is just gorgeous writing. I gotta actually play this one. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. I learned this inflection principle, by the way, from a guy named Mark Westcott, who is unfortunately now gone. But he studied with some of the best people ever. He knew Leon Fleischer a little bit, and Fleischer talks about this inflection over the bar principle a lot. He also studied with Cecil Genhardt, who was a student of the Busoni, like the composer we know, who of course edited all of Bach's keyboard music, both organ and harpsichord, and made transcriptions of much of it. So Busoni was pretty definitive in his understanding of Bach and how the counterpoint works and how the harmony works and the rhythm and how it all interacts. So essentially all of what I'm teaching you is coming from Busoni, who I also believe has ties to Brahms. I'm going to have to double check that. I could be totally wrong there. But I know I'm not wrong, at least up to the Busoni lineage. So that's, even if he has no ties to anyone, that's still pretty important. So in any case, let's keep going. I have to play this to hear it. It might be the other way. Yeah. We're actually, in this case, in this case, we're going to go to the middle of the beat. Now, I know I said in the beginning of this, no offbeat, but what I meant by that is, like, in a group of 4, that's the second or the 4th. We don't want to end on that. But in a group of 4, the 3rd it's kind of more of a beat feel, because it's like on the odd numbers as opposed to the even numbers. So in this case, the group is actually going to end here on the 3rd 16th of beat 3, as opposed to the 1st 16th. Same thing here. And the group starts on the 4th 16th. Now the reason for this is because of the harmony. It resolves on the 3rd 16th. It resolves on the 3rd 16th again. See, this is all an A minor chord. A, C, E is missing. But we don't get the full A minor until the 3rd 16th because the B is tied. So that's why the group is a little different in this case. And then, same thing, we don't get the harmony until the G sharp, which is on the 3rd 16th. So this kind of upsets the pattern temporarily, and then we go back. In this case, it's just 2 notes. This is where a group would be shortened in order to start something more logically like here. That's a clear group of 4. I would go to the top note, to the harmony change, and then I would go to the beginning of the trill. And then you have a cadence figure. Okay, so this line is definitely the most complex line, but let me play it. I'm going to back up to here. Again, notice all the breaks. Now without the breaks, so you can hear the actual flow. Okay, I'm sight reading, so not particularly good. I mean, kind of not sight reading because I already did the inflections. And that is the power of doing this too. The more you understand inflection and really practice it in, you learn your piece almost overnight because it just tells your fingers how they're supposed to be organized. And it's not just a bunch of random patterns to do mechanically, but you're building in an ear training association. The beauty of the sound, the curvature of the line associates with the physical feel of it. So you learn it almost overnight. It's amazing. Generally, when I put in my fingering, I know my rhythm and I know my inflections, I'm already 85% of the way to learning a piece. Everything else is just polish at that point. Speed building, balance, pedaling, while those are big topics, they ultimately come down to, do you know your fingering and your inflection and your rhythm? And when you know that, everything else just sort of fits into that mold. So in any case, let's keep going. This is where it gets definitely more complex. I would definitely do the first 4 because you start a long note there. So that's sort of a punctuation. Plus, you have a new voice entering. You never want to do a group over a new voice. Like you wouldn't combine these 8. Because that's confusing to the ear that that's a new entry if you combine it all in one go. So, that's where it gets much more complex though. I guess I would still go 4 because of the left hand 5-to-1 drop. That kind of is like its own thing. And then harmony changes here. So yeah, here's a group of 8. Here's a very normal logical group of 8. So 4 moving to 8. For 2 reasons. The left hand goes from D major to G minor. So there's no reason to kind of stop in between the chord change. But it's also just like a very continuous pattern that only changes direction twice. So it just kind of makes sense to put that all in one go. Now we're back to the beginning of the piece. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't do this right. By the way, I didn't say this yet. It's very late in the video to make this claim. But when I write these slurs, I just mean them as inflection marking. It doesn't mean you're supposed to articulate like legato, 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 staccato. Like that would literally sound horrible. So I just want to be clear on that because that's an easy thing to miss. Okay. These are all fours. Though I could definitely see them combining to eights in this case, because you have the one that goes up and then it goes down. But then it's kind of just different. Actually, okay, here we go. This is actually an 8 because, again, chord change, C to F. But here's where it gets weird. This is just a tough measure because the right hand is a very simple scale. So that kind of makes sense to go all the way to here. But then this is very jagged, so it makes sense to break this up in fours. In other words, the left hand is 4s while the right hand is 8. And then the right hand is 4s while the left hand is 8. They don't necessarily match up in this case. There's another reason to practice hands separate more often. As much of the time, you will see a situation like this at least a couple times in each piece where the hands are not inflected similarly. But then, of course, you have to do both 4s and both 8s to accommodate both hands. Then you do 8. Something like that. All right, we are almost to the finish line. We're at 27 minutes. This is crazy. I thought this would be a 10-minute video. I don't know what I was thinking. I've taught this way too many times to know how long it takes. In any case, maybe I'll just upload this to YouTube. That would be really cool because then I can get some double value for it. And more people can see it. Why not? It's been a good summary of what I think on these things, I think. So in any case, yep. Then this is very, very similar to the beginning. So I don't think there is anything that's not there, right? Because we have the tops again, just like before, and then this cadence is just like the first cadence where it has the 6 at the end. And then in the left hand. Yep. There we go. Yeah. Okay, cool. So pretty darn crazy. This has been a lot. It's probably going to take a while to really digest this, but guaranteed, once you practice this, you're going to not only hear music differently, you're going to think about it differently, and you're going to memorize a lot faster. So good luck.